Welcome to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood Coleman, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. This week, I'm covering Israel as the featured country. After 11 days of escalating violence in Gaza, with warnings of a full-scale war, there were some signs of light as Israel and Palestinian extremist militants agreed to a ceasefire. The spark of the conflict was an eviction case involving Palestinian families living in the East Jerusalem Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. The families had lived there since 1956 as a result of a United Nations brokered arrangement, which was intended to house families who lost property when Israel became a nation state. But the Israeli nationalist organization Nahalat Shimon was arguing that the owners of the land prior to 1948 were Jewish, and so the property should revert to Israeli Jews. They were using a 1970 law passed after Israel gained control over East Jerusalem to press their case in court. Israel's Supreme Court was scheduled to hear the Sheikh Jarrah case on May 10th, but it was postponed. While the violent clashes between Palestinians and Israeli forces were escalating in East Jerusalem, Palestinian militants in Gaza were firing rockets relentlessly into Israel, many of which were intercepted by its missile defense system. Hamas and Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility for the rocket attacks. Israel responded by launching airstrikes on Gaza. By mid-May, Israeli forces were escalating their strikes on the Gaza Strip. Israeli Defense Forces said that its strikes on Gaza were aimed at hitting targets utilized by Palestinian militants. Fallout from the airstrikes included a home of a senior Hamas leader being destroyed. Other casualties included the deaths of 10 people as a result of a strike that hit a refugee camp. Yet another Israeli strike resulted in the destruction of a high-rise that contained bureaus from the Associated Press, Al Jazeera, and other media groups. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the building containing media organizations was targeted because Hamas's military intelligence was operating in the building. The Associated Press, however, released a statement saying that they saw no indication of any Hamas operations in the building. AP President and CEO Gary Pruitt said, "We are shocked and horrified that the Israeli military would target and destroy the building housing AP's bureau and other news organizations in Gaza. They have long known the location of our bureau and knew journalists were there. We received a warning that the building would be hit." Pruitt went on to note that the AP narrowly avoided a terrible loss of life, as dozens of AP journalists and freelancers barely evacuated the building in time. Finally, after 11 days of escalating violence in Gaza, on May 20th, the Israeli Security Cabinet unanimously agreed to an Egyptian-brokered ceasefire deal. The Palestinian extremist militant groups in Gaza, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, confirmed the ceasefire. United States President Joe Biden addressed the conflict, emphasizing the United States' support for Israel to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks. President Biden additionally suggested that both Israelis and Palestinians should be able to live safely and securely. President Biden also committed to assisting in rebuilding Gaza, working through the Palestinian Authority, but making clear that there would be no ability for Hamas to reconstitute its weapons cache. Across the world in Colombia, protests had been ongoing for weeks. The epicenter of the nationwide unrest was increasingly becoming the city of Cali, where fuel and other basic supplies were in short supply, and the movement through the city was being stymied by blockades. As well, the grievances from protesters were expanding. No longer were they simply focused on the tax reform proposal or even police brutality. Now the demands included poverty alleviation, addressing inequality in the healthcare system, abolishing university tuition, demanding universal basic income, and advocating for indigenous rights. At the heart of the growing protest movement were young people. The death toll to date had risen to close to 50. Moving on to the Maldives, where the Speaker of the Parliament, former President Mohamed Nasheed, had been badly injured in an attempted assassination plot, the motivation was becoming clearer. The Maldives police said that the attack appeared to have been carried out by religious extremists. The Maldives has faced violence at the hands of Islamic militants, and Nasheed has long been a forthright critic of extremist Islamists, quite possibly placing him in the crosshairs of those very extremist sites. Meanwhile, former President Nasheed had been flown to Germany for further medical treatment. Finally, Armenia has accused Azerbaijan of infiltrating its borders and staking claims on its territory. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said that Azerbaijani troops had advanced more than 2 miles or 3 kilometers into southern Armenia. He said that Azerbaijan was attempting to lay siege on Lake Sevlik. For its part, the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry dismissed the accusation and maintained that it was simply enforcing its own border. Azerbaijan further insisted that it was committed to easing tensions with Armenia. Tensions have been extremely high since late 2020, when Azerbaijan recaptured territory during fierce battles over Nagorno-Karabakh. Located within the internationally recognized borders of Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh is an ethnic Armenian enclave that has been the subject of periodic fighting over the years. A Russian-brokered ceasefire resulted in Azerbaijan retaining the territory it recaptured, to the dismay of Armenians. For more information about these and other stories, read my weekly political intelligence briefing and my coronavirus report, both of which are accessible from the front page of the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and remember that we live in an interconnected world.